You are listening to the Game Like Training podcast, or you're watching, where we talk about golf practice, golf learning, golf psychology, the PGA Tour, college golf. I mean, what else golf? Pretty much everything golf. On this show, we try to bring on top quality coaches, industry professionals, leaders in the academic world, leaders in science and research to help golf coaches teach better or golfers play better. Hey, I'm your host, Matthew Cooke.
I'm your co-host, Arick Zeigel. Cool conversation today, Maddie. No guest, just the two of us sitting here in a new location.
In our store.
In our golf store. So welcome to the golf store. So we had a cool conversation the other day with a pretty big club manufacturer. I'm sure everybody's heard of them. Do you want to share some details as far as kind of the relationship we've struck with them and maybe a little bit about kind of what the conversation was about?
Sure, yeah. So we were talking to the guys at Ping. We have a pretty good relationship with the guys over there now. Paul Wood has a fantastic team of just super nice people, but very intelligent. He's created such a good environment. We got the chance to go over and spend some time with Paul and the guys over there, and they have such a good environment of learning and testing and like everything that we love, really. It's pretty cool. They have such a good team. So we were having a conversation with them guys about putter fitting, and I think the golf world gets it when it comes to measuring aspects of things like putting, for example, face balance, length, lie, putter face, grooves on the face, soft inserts, non-soft inserts, all those different types of things. They know what to measure, but it's how and where that we're particularly interested in.
Yeah, I think with all the technology that's come out, you have Sam Putt Lab, Quintech, all these, since we're kind of talking putting right now, all these putting tools or softwares that really make it, you're no longer guessing when it comes to a fitting process, right?
No, not anymore.
Yeah, you're able to look at a lot of information, a lot of data, and really make your best judgment as far as what putter you think is going to be best for the person. But like you said, it's not so much about the tools that are being used, more so about how they're using them.
Yeah, I mean, those very expensive technology as well.
Oh my gosh.
Like how accurate it is, it's frightening.
Yeah.
Like it tells you. I mean, I won't go into it. There's people way smarter than me that know more about it, but very, very cool, expensive tools. And for us, it's about where you're doing it and how representative of the environment that you're going to play in. Otherwise, the data is irrelevant.
Yeah. So just to give everybody a little insight, the conversation in the beginning was kind of trying to find a better way to essentially fit people for putters.
Because that's what we're looking for. We're always looking to improve, right?
Yeah.
Better way to train, a better way to practice, a better way to fit, to get the right club.
And fitting, quite frankly, has been, when Ping came out with their system, however long ago that was kind of revolutionized the way people were really looking at fittings. And it's progressed from there, but I feel like it's at a point where, you're still seeing lie boards, you're still seeing face tape, you're still seeing people standing in one place. Like there's so much that could be done with it for the benefit of the golfer and ultimately the company that chooses to go that route. But
yes, it does make things harder. We'll agree there.
Yes,
because like you said, hitting from the same place, lie board, face tape, very traditional, typical. Let's hit 10 shots with this club, and then we'll see something. Then we'll change to a flatter lie or a more upright lie, and you'll see an improvement.
And you hit 10 more balls.
You hit 10 more balls.
We'll try this shaft, and we'll look at dispersions.
When just from, I mean, if you're not hitting the ball better after 20 shots already, then you probably need to play a new game. But you could be anybody on the face of the earth and get better after hitting more shots. Like that's just how it works.
Yeah.
So we're missing what we're missing and what the fitting world is missing is taking the tools into the environment that the player is ultimately going to be faced with, and seeing if this shaft or if this lie or if this loft or if this bounce or if this putter, if the weight of this putter, whatever it is, will have an impact on performance in the moment, in that situation where the ground's not quite as flat. There's a little bit of wind. There's people that you may be in a competitive environment because you're in a challenge or something. Whatever it is, you got to see if these changes that you're suggesting with club and that you're measuring with the club are going to impact real performance.
Yeah. And there's a magic word for this, and it's called context.
Context.
So we're talking context today.
Context is everything. How you perceive the word bow on an ocean. I think I heard this from Dr. Robert Bjork.
Okay.
It talks about how you look at the word bow on an ocean liner, and then you look at the same word in a gift shop. You perceive it very differently because of the context that you're in. So everything we do is in context. Everything we learn, everything we we'll just stick with learning. Everything we learn is done in context. So even if you're spending time in one location, you know what? Let's take this. We're doing a podcast. If we did every podcast in this room, tens and to hundreds of them, we would contextualize our skill set for speaking and our body language and our performance with podcasts would be contextualized to this room. You take us out of this room after doing 100 podcasts, we're going to feel a little uneven. We're going to feel a little weird being somewhere else. We're probably going to make a mistake with something. It's not going to be as seamless.
Yeah, I can feel my posture's not as good right now as it is when we got those comfy back chairs in there.
My life.
No, that's a great point. So I think let's go deeper into that then. When it comes to, we actually had a great conversation yesterday, speaking putting.
Mm-hmm.
And
new podcast coming to you in a few days as well.
Yeah, so there's going to be a great podcast that you should definitely check out.
Lee Sullivan giving us some tips from Phil Kenyon.
Yeah, talking about kind of their their 7 keys to putting performance.
7 keys to putting performance. So Putting Solutions is the company.
Yeah, there's 7 elements.
Putting it. 7 elements.
7 elements.
So we talk a little bit about the 7 elements that those guys have for putting.
But then I asked him a great question. I don't know how much of this we want to give away, but I asked him
why not,
when they are kind of doing their assessment, what sort of context is it in? So, is it measuring everything on a flat lie? Because that's kind of your typical putter fitting, right? You go and you hop on Sand Putt Lab or Quintec, whatever it might be, and they give you a 10 to 12 foot putt, and it's usually flat, and it's indoors, and you just kind of hit a ball and you pull the next one in, and you hit it and you pull the next one in, and they say, you're aimed right. It's like, okay, what if all of a sudden this is a right to left putt and I'm aimed right, but the ball always goes in? Like, is that really something that's worth changing? And that was actually something that we spoke with him about yesterday.
Yeah.
Kind of at what cost do you change something like that? But that's kind of a different topic. But I think doing a fitting and understanding kind of those performance variables that come into play when you are in a more contextualized environment, whether it be for putting specifically green read, if you put them on a flat putt, like you said, they're going to adjust. So if you want as representative of data as you can possibly get, one putt from this spot, one putt from this spot, varying lengths, varying slopes, uphill, downhill.
And quite easy to do for putting.
Yeah.
I feel like for putting and short game, like if we just classified putting and short game separate, that short game for like wedge play and stuff and bunkers around the green,
right?
We just categorize it like that. I feel for putting and short game, it's probably the easiest.
Yeah.
To have that variability, to have that environment that's representative of competitive play because you can go to a green.
Right.
You can set up multiple things on one green and have different
Right.
experiences.
Or most places nowadays have pretty good short game areas.
Yeah, for the most part.
And you can kind of get away with even doing it on a short game area. Or you're on a putting green and it has 9 different holes.
Yeah.
With a bunch of different slopes. So you can, without even having to go into the course, you can simply make that a more contextualized environment for, a fitting. When it comes to full swing and stuff,
a little harder.
A little more challenging to do. A little more time consuming.
And I think there's a misconception. People think it's easier with the long game because they feel like because it's typically for the driver, people think it's a little easier for the driver because it's a flat tee surface.
Yeah.
Which, okay, the range is a flat tee surface. So on the surface level, you might think that this is the easiest to test because you're always in the same environment because it's a flat tee box. Well, no, you're not. Because if there's a highway 400 yards down the right, or if there's a tree line down the left, or if there's 4 bunkers down the left, or out in the distance, if you're in a certain part of the country, if you're seeing mountains in the distance, then all of that is context. All of that shapes your ability to perform a movement.
Right.
So it's actually more difficult because it's harder to provide the variability and the contextual differences that would stimulate what we would call synaptogenesis. That would stimulate that because you'd have to travel to every single hole on the golf course.
Yeah.
That fitting process would take hours.
Yeah.
To ultimately to do a really, really good fitting, you'd have to travel to 4 different golf clubs.
Yeah, and that might be with your elite level player with a pro.
Yeah, maybe that's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard stories of, you give a tour pro a club that's totally misfit for them, and within 2 swings they adapt to it. Yeah, they adjust to it, and they end up hitting the same quality shots that they normally would. So
they make these small adjustments.
Exactly.
If it's a little whippy, they're most likely subconsciously slow down.
Yeah, they'll change something to get the flight that they want. So putting a tour pro in a situation where hit me 10 of these.
Oh God! Well, if you don't hit the ball better, then he maybe shouldn't be on top.
Yeah, it's just you're not asking for the right things. But
either way, context is vital.
Yes.
For fitting.
So last point, context and fitting, huge. I think everybody needs to take a look at how they are going about their fitting processes and figuring out, does that fitting environment, and it's an easy question to ask yourself, does this fitting environment represent, a performance environment?
That's it? Is it that? That's the one question?
Yeah.
Dr. Richard Schmidt told me years ago when I'm on the phone asking him, is this practice game good? What do you think to this? It's like, Matt, does this represent the competitive environment? Yes or no answer. No. Then it's no good.
Yeah.
Just done. You didn't even need to really know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Does it represent? If not, no. So just ask yourself that question.
Yeah.
If you're going to fit somebody, you're going to do a putter fitting, is what you're asking this person to do reflective of what they're going to have to do?
Right.
Wonder.
Stuart Morgan said it well, and it's always stuck in my head when I was working with him 2 years ago now. I would ask him about training, and I'd have a training environment, and he'd always say, I'd ask him and he'd ask me a question. He was good about that. But so he'd say, you have to ask yourself 2 things. Does it look real? And then you have to basically interview the player and ask, does it feel real?
Yeah.
And that's your 2 signs. If it looks real from a coach's perspective, and then from the player performer's perspective, if it feels real, that's when you've hit the sweet spot.
Yeah. Because it might fit for that would adapt to challenge point theory.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
going to feel real if there's very little that you change.
Yeah.
For a beginner golfer, because that very little is quite demanding for them.
Yeah. And that's where your traditional fitting environment might be a little bit better suited.
Hey, straight up, if you're a complete beginner golfer, maybe you do need to stand on a flat range.
Yeah.
And do it.
Yeah, it's not that everybody has to go into this extreme of a contextualized environment. It's
it just needs
tailoring
to be known.
it to the individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just needs to be more. We need to be more aware of it.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, I agree.
But that's us going into a different world with our philosophy. fitting is a different world for us, but with our philosophy, I think we can have a big impact on it.
Yeah, completely agree.
But let's get to some training.
Yeah, so on the same topic of context, we had Ramel help us out with some editing, and I basically just screen recorded a few things, and then he showed me how to make pretty lines. But we threw it up on.
Really proud of this.
We threw it up
4 hours doing it.
We threw it up on YouTube. We're coming out with a new series, on course training, and it's basically, to some people they might call them games, to others we might call them challenges, but ultimately it's training in a more contextualized environment.
Ultimately, yeah. You call it what you want. It's practicing in a way that you might have to play.
Yeah.
So it's contextual, and they are all on the golf course, right?
Yeah, all these ones. Yeah,
they're all on the golf course.
Yeah, the most of them will be all on golf course.
And I feel like there's a misconception. Yeah, I feel like there is a misconception there with the golf world, if we say that practicing on the golf course might be too demanding. Might be too. The challenge point might be too high. But I don't think it ever is. Even for a complete beginner golfer that's never hit a ball before.
Yeah.
I heard, we've got it on a podcast somewhere with Dr. Richard Bailey. I think it's Doctor. Is it Dr. Richard Bailey? Or is it just Richard Bailey?
Oof,
I don't know. But either way, sorry, Richard, if it's Doctor.
If it's not, you're welcome.
If it's not, and he brought this point up to me. He says, we're, taking a complete beginner out on the golf course and then finding what the problems might be and then coming up with solutions to them problems, not just before you even get the chance to see what a problem might be, giving someone problems when you don't know what they're gonna do yet.
Yeah.
So he said, even with complete beginner golfers, context, taking them out into the conditions that they're gonna be faced with, is best.
Yeah.
You just adjust the demands for it, even out there. But context is everything.
So do you want to give us an example of that? Adjusting the context.
Adjust complete beginner golfer. Let's say we've got complete beginner golfer. Go straight out on the golf course. And if they've never swung a golf club before, this is what I do. I'd go straight to the green.
Yeah.
And I would maybe stand in front of the green and I'd throw a ball just onto the green and see where it ends up and say, all right, that's your approach shot. That's the shot. Just imagine that's the shot you've just hit onto the green. Now let's try and get the ball in the hole. And I'd literally not say anything else. I would see how they hold it. I'd see how they stood, and I would see what they did to try and advance the ball forward, and go from there. Like you really can't say that. Oh well, I'd make sure that they'd be holding the club like this, they'd be standing like this, they'd have the ball position here, and then they would need to their speeds and their acceleration and deceleration should be like this. Like, you can't say what it would be. You just have to see what the golfer's going to do.
Yeah. And
then out of all of these things that you might have in your mind as principles to good putting, you just got to see what you get presented with. And if this beginner golfer might put the ball within 2 feet from 40 feet, you're not going to change a damn thing.
Yeah.
You're going to say, well done. Yeah. Let's now go on to the next hole, and I'll drop one green side. I'm going to see how you try to chip the ball.
Right.
And that's it.
I know.
And see what they do there.
Yeah. I know so we have in the junior program, we have a young student. This is the first year he's ever played golf, but has a pretty extensive hockey background.
Yeah.
But his understanding of just kind of his intentions within the game, like for a kid that's never held a putter before, distance control, like he knows what he's trying to do. And I think partly from his hockey background, like he understands kind of how to, okay, if I want a ball to go this far versus this far, this is how I do it. Whereas we have other kids who've been playing for like a year and still haven't grasped this concept of like, how do I get the ball to go different distances on the green? But so it's funny because like with him, if he had called and said, I've never played golf before, most people would have typically taken him onto the range and tried to show him all these basics.
Mm-hmm.
This kid should be on the golf course. Like he's got, he has a lot of those, just the fundamentals already kind of instilled within him. And I think, again, a lot of that is credited to kind of his hockey background. You know, because he holds it unconventional.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of holds it like a hockey stick, but he has achieved everything that we've asked him to.
You know, I want to touch on that point. A rant might come here, but it annoys the crap out of me when, let's say, I'm going to say, I'm trying to figure out how to be politically correct, but it's not going to work. But say a golf coach that would disagree with all of our philosophy would look at this kid that you just talked about and going, oh, there's going to be too many manipulations in that. It's not going to be functional as he gets older and grows. It's going to cause a problem. He's going to make adjustments in his stroke, and he's going to manipulate the club face, and you know, it's not in a functional position. Blah blah blah. Absolute BS. Skill will develop regardless.
Yeah.
Like the ability to move that putter, holding it like that, standing however he's standing, the ability to move that putter in a way that gets the ball from A to B consistently, repeatedly, at a high level is not about those aspects that golf coach would have addressed. It is simple. It's a neurological thing. The brain, the connections in the brain that allow neurons to fire down whatever pathways and routes they take to engage the different muscles in that person, in this kid's body, that produce high proficient movement. Those connections will be so strong that how it looks aesthetically is irrelevant, like completely irrelevant. So if it comes down to where he misses a putt or he hits, you know, for a couple of weeks his distance control's off. No, it's not because he's holding the grip unconventionally. Maybe he's starting to feel the stresses that competitive golf might be presenting, and he needs coping strategies psychologically. It's not that all of a sudden his friggin' form's causing issues.
Right.
Like that's the misconception. It's complete garbage.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. So, anything else you want to say? Or can we kind of? That's a good rant to end on, I think.
Sorry.
No, that's good. That's good.
Context.
Yeah.
Know it, learn it, and bring it into your practice and your fitting.
Yeah. So, just ask yourself when you're creating, whether it's a fitting or if it's creating a training environment for a student, does it look real and does it feel real? Does it represent the game?
If it doesn't, it's probably not helpful.
Yeah.
If it does, you're onto something. Great. All good?
Love it.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us. I got to finish up with my notes here. You can keep up to date with us by going to our website, gltgolf.com, and in the top right corner, you'll see subscribe. Click there. You can subscribe to our mailing list. We'll send you everything we do. We also put everything out on social media, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we're videoing this as well as recording the audio, so SoundCloud and YouTube. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.